Please welcome Vikki Caruso. Her co-panelist, head of agency distribution at Clearcover. Ladies and gentlemen, making her way to the stage, please welcome Roslyn Glanville. And joining both Vikki and Roslyn on the stage is the coverage consulting manager at Clearcover. Making her way now onto our virtual platform. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome me with virtual applause, Aletha Green. Take it away, Clearcover family.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, totally. This is amazing.
I want a hype man in every area of my life now.
I do too. We just need that every Monday morning for sure.
I need mine every day. Well, it's good to be able to sit and chat with you all. I'm going to go ahead and share the slides, and let's have some girl talk.
Yeah. So want to kick it off. First of all three of us are so honored to be here with you all today. This is huge, and sharing what courage and compassion looks like and how to and not to address structural racism in the workplace. So just to kind of set the scene for you all, some other Black coworkers and I established a Slack channel within our company. That Slack channel was seen as a safe haven for us, if you will, that we could chat. We're used to just sticking out like a sore thumb. Even though you're used to it, though, you're hyper aware of it at all times. Mm-hmm. So we move into what happened with George Floyd. We're getting messages from our white friends and coworkers about what happened, how we felt. And it was hard to illustrate the physical pain that this one felt because we were in a pandemic. We were forced to watch this traumatizing thing happen over and over and over again. And there was just no escaping it. And then when you're at work, your coworkers are talking about the inconvenience of the looting and the uprising and how upset they were about physical buildings when you're upset about someone's Black physical body being destroyed. So your pain turns into a little bit of anger, right? And you're having to suppress that. It's struggling to make it through the day without breaking down into tears. It's struggling trying to have these conversations with people, not knowing if they're your allies or not knowing if they really want to know how you feel or if they just think, well, it's the right thing to do. So here we are at this company with these very noble operating principles, feeling like we kind of didn't belong there, feeling like there wasn't equity there for us in this situation. And it was forcing us to be honest with a lot of our coworkers. So Clearcover, being caring, doing what they thought was the right thing to do, stepped in and they hired a counselor to speak to us about this temporary stress that we were going through. Unfortunately, for us as Black people that work for Clearcover, it was a white counselor, and she was focused on the temporary stress. Many of you know that our Black, we have a permanent stress. It's a stress that we're born with, right? I mean, when I think about myself, my identity is a Black mother, a Black daughter, a Black friend, a Black cousin, a Black professional. All of these things, my whole life is wrapped around me being Black. So my conversation with Vikki was, what is this white woman going to tell me about being Black and how I'm feeling? And explaining this, what she thinks is a temporary stress, but for me is a lifetime stress. Mm-hmm. Vikki, what did you say?
Well, I just messed up. And I said thank you as well. Right? I said, thank you for bringing this to me and partnering with me so that we can make this better. And, but first and foremost, it was, I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
Yes.
So.
And then I think from that, we learned some really good things to do moving forward as we look at what does structural racism look like in the workplace? And more importantly, how do we become allies of breaking down that barrier? And we'd like to spend the rest of the time, talking about the 3 things that we found that were barriers to breaking down that structural wall, and what things could be the key to success, if you will. So let me switch to the slides here.
So I'm going to kick us off with the barriers to entry, because I feel, if anything, Aletha and Roz have helped mentor me, and more importantly, educate me and help me and guide me through some of this and become better, I think. And I'm still learning, and they're still teaching me, probably daily. And I might ask them more questions than they want sometimes, but I'm grateful that they're there for me. And so some things that I think right away that can create a barrier to entry, and that these are things I would say try to fix first before anything, is making sure that you having a lack of diversity on your leadership and recruiting teams, because that's going to directly impact your ability to attract more diversity, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's also going to impact your ability to create an inclusive environment, right? I think Aletha said this earlier, that she felt alone, right? And I think that while I can't relate to that, I can help make it better by making sure we bring more diversity. And in order to do that, it has to start at the top and on the team that brings people into the organization, which is my team,
Sure.
The recruiting team. The second is really my favorite Roz saying, because she came up with this, but it's don't use a Band-Aid for a bullet hole, which I am convinced this is in a Taylor Swift song, but I don't. But that was my challenge to figure out, and I didn't get to it. But so often, and I think the example that Aletha shared, that my instant reaction was like, oh, quick, let me get someone to talk to them and this will make it better. And that's a Band-Aid, right? That's only, and even that wasn't a good Band-Aid. That was one of those Band-Aids that's really cheap and it falls off really fast. And that's right?
That's good, yeah.
This time we needed a really good Band-Aid, but then we needed to rip that Band-Aid off and dig in after we got through that moment. And I think that this is what we've been doing, and we've been spending time doing, is peeling back. And I think Roz explained it as we need to have surgery, right?
Yeah.
This is big. This is not a Band-Aid fix. This is big. We got to get this bullet and get it out. And it's going to take teamwork to do that. So I think don't try to make quick fixes, because they don't work.
That's fair.
Not going to work at all.
Yeah, and then when you dig back and you're looking down, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I need surgery. Like, one of the elements that requires surgical attention first is that whole separate but equal thought process. And when we think about diversity and inclusion as 2 very separate things, like an inclusive environment is one where everyone feels like they can bring their race, to work. And there is a segment of the minority population, and we do something that's called code switch. We will code switch, which means we will water down our Blackness, we will water down our Asianness, we'll water down our Hispanicness before we come to work, so that who we are and what perspectives our race brings to the professional table, it's watered down. And so what that means is now the cultural perspective of the company begins to get, watered down. And many companies recognize this as there becomes more diversity and inclusion at the leadership level. And we'll have these wonderful things called, resource groups. And on the surface, they're great. But when you have resource groups that highlight factors that are normally foundations for discrimination, like at our company, we have the Black Slack. I've worked for companies that have, the female resource group. There's the Hispanic resource group. There's all these different resource groups that are that cater to a particular ethnicity. And that is a barrier to breaking down the structural racism in the workplace, because what it does is it allows those minorities to self-segregate. And now we come to work, we've code switched, and then there's a little part of our day or in our resource group meeting that allows us to uncode switch, because as a Black woman who code switches regularly, let me tell you, it's exhausting. I'm tired at the end of the day because I've pretended to be someone I'm not all day long. And then my quick reprieve is when I'm in my Black Slack and I can ask questions about hair stuff and things like that. And so when we have resource groups like this, it allows us to self-segregate, but it's also a result of a larger symptom. Truly inclusive environments do not need resource groups that are reflective of someone's race or ethnicity. When there's true inclusion and people feel comfortable and safe bringing their race to work, then your resource groups can be around interests and hobbies, and maybe soccer resource group and a cooking resource group. And we relieve the need of having a group for Black people and a group for Hispanic people and a group for homosexuals and a group for women. And we really begin to have resource groups that really help us be better professionals at work. And so as we did our work, as like Vikki said, as we took off the Band-Aid and we're realizing we need surgery, those were the three things that, as the three of us have had conversations, were common themes among the things that we felt were barriers to our success. But I also don't want to focus on all the bad things. Let's talk about some of the keys to success that will help us become more inclusive as an organization and break down those barriers of to structural racism in the workplace.
So kicking off these keys, one thing that Roz mentioned, Vikki mentioned, we had to be honest. We had to be honest about the current status of our organization. Everybody at Clearcover had good intentions. I think people in life in general, most of the time have good intentions. However, we were broken. We really had some serious issues that we needed to face.
Yeah.
And this is an important step to being successful and identifying the bullet wound, what's all going on with it, where do we need to repair it, and then go ahead and get down to work.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think right on top of that, a very important key to success for me is having, cultural mentorship. And Vikki, Aletha, I know we've talked about this. I have 3 cultural mentors. I have Scott, who is a white male baby boomer. And then I have Sarah and Brandy, who are both white female millennials. And that is extremely important to me because this might come as a shock, but every morning I wake up and I'm Black. And my family is Black, and my friend circle is Black, and the community organizations I'm a part of, are Black. And then I have to come to work, and I'm now in a non-Black environment, and the ability to build and sustain relationships are critical to my professional success. And we'll have mentors for public speaking, we'll have mentors for how I get ahead in the organization, but being able to have a trusted advisor where you feel safe to sit in front of them and say, how are people experiencing me at work? Do I sound angry? How's the expression on my face? And then to know I'm in a safe place where they are, to use what Laura said earlier, they are charged with helping me grow at the border of support and challenge. So they can challenge me, but then they can also support me. So I have a safe place, to be myself. I have another opportunity to not code switch at work. And on the flip side of that, both Sarah and Brandy, they help me to understand what it means to navigate a millennial workforce, what it means to do that as a Black female. And then I can answer some of the questions for them because they probably wake up white every morning with white families and, white organizations. And then they now want to be an ally in equality. And to be an ally without understanding is very difficult. And I told Sarah I was going to tell this story, and she's reading this phenomenal book about, racism and how to overcome it in her book club. But her book club, of course, are women who look just like her. And so that race conversation takes on a very different perspective when you have a safe place with someone who doesn't look like you to be able to have those real conversations about, is this right? If I say it this way, will someone think that I'm racist? But being able to have those honest, transparent, uncomfortable discussions with someone who is a trusted, experienced advisor in the area of the ethnic group you're looking for helps you grow not only as a leader or as a professional, but also as a person in this community.
Yeah, and I'll just to add to that, I couldn't go without saying that I feel very blessed to have both of you who I can ask questions to, and who are also not afraid to say, you messed up, or better, or hey, you've got that wrong. Because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to make an impact, and I wouldn't be able to help make Clearcover a better place for all of us, right? And so I feel very blessed to have that relationship. So thank you.
So now, you've been honest, right? We've been honest about the organization. We know where we're at. We've developed these cultural mentorship programs. The third part is probably going to be the most painful part on the bottom line for the company.
That's fair.
It's when you're making that investment. These investments are most often financial. It's going to cost money to make changes. It's an emotional investment. People will be uncomfortable. People will need to adjust what they're used to doing, what the status quo might be, and they won't like it. And you'll lose people. People will leave the company. People will leave because once something, for some folks, has been shaken up to the point where they're no longer able to be the bro at work or, be the homegirl in the shadows, they're going to leave.
And that's got to be okay.
Prepared for that. It's got to be okay. You have to be okay with that.
Yeah, that's fair. And so as we close this out, and I'm grateful that we had the time to talk about it, but I know we could go hours about talking about just breaking down racism in the workplace. But I think it's important that as we walk away from this, we think about what's the next steps. Like, what can we do? What can our audience members do to take this to the next level? And I challenge everyone, including us, to be unapologetically Black. Believe that love always creates keys. And when I say love, I don't mean the romantic love. I mean the love that, now if that's what you subscribe to, that's good too. Love in the workplace isn't wrong, but the love that I'm referring to is that love that drives respect, that encourages action, and it develops courage. And as we walk away from this and we look at ways of being unapologetically, Black, do you have the courage, as we go back into our respective organizations? Are you asking for diversity and recruiting on your leadership teams? Do you have the courage to look in the mirror and be honest and say, wait a minute, am I the Band-Aid on the bullet hole? Is it me? Am I holding the Band-Aid on? Do I need to help pull the Band-Aid off and put on my surgical gown and help do surgery? Are you looking at your organization and saying, well, wait a minute, do we have, separate but equal resource groups? And should I be active in helping, influence change in that space? But I think more importantly, as we walk away from this and we think about ways to be unapologetically Black, do you have a cultural mentor? Are you a cultural mentor to someone who doesn't look like you? Are you helping to bring understanding about your race to someone who doesn't look like you? And are you on the receiving end of learning and being mentored, by someone who's of a race that's different than yours? And when we do and invest in these things, being unapologetically Black means we now have the keys that are unlocking that change that we want to see, that we want to be a part of. And so with that being said, there's some things that our company is doing well. Our company also still has lots of opportunities to improve and get better. But at the end of the day, we are unapologetically Black.
Yes.
I'm going to clap for you.
But that's what we wanted to share with everyone today. We're very grateful for the opportunity and the ability to work for a company that allows us to transparently share the things that are good about us and the opportunities. Some of them are opportunities in disguise, but they're still opportunities for us to get better. So thank you, Intermittent, for this opportunity. And we're all good.
Bye, everybody.
Go be unapologetically Black, everyone.